Introduction. First, what is an e-library? An e-library or electronic library is used to access online materials such as books, articles, journals, and many more materials over the internet. Next, we're going to have a brief explanation about the contents of the introduction. Our introduction are composed of 3 paragraphs. The first one's content is about what will the organization, the Cavite State University, and the students of CBSU will benefit from it. The CBSU as well as the students will benefit from the e-learning software or e-learning system because the amount of manual labor of the library staffs and the expenses and efforts of the students to go to the library will be lessened. The second one's content will be the discussion of how the e-library system will work and the data flow diagram of the existing system that we based on. The e-library will work just like a mobile library system that students can access through an application using mobile data, wireless fidelity, and the ISP or the Internet Service Provider that the university have around the campus. Students will be able to access the software by being a registered student of Cavite State University main campus. So let's proceed in the discussion of the data flow diagram of the existing system. Data flow diagram of the existing system. The entity student will access the library lobby to process the registration form. After the process of registration form in the library lobby, a library card will be processed in the library card verification process, where the data store student's database is connected. After the verification, a verified library card will return to the student entity. Using the verified library card, you then will be able to access the library entity. The third paragraph's content of the introduction are a brief history about the Cavite State University and the University Library.
So in this section, we will tackle about the problems and difficulties that our target participants encounters, which is the students of the Cavite State University. So the first problem is the difficulties in accessing the library during this pandemic. So what are the causes why student can visit the university library? We have three categories here in the vision diagram below. In people category, the students lack internet connection. Yes, although most of the students have internet connection at home, it's not always the case on the others. There is always a student that buy load on the sari-sari store and convert it to data to browse on the internet, and some are can't afford to buy load. There are some students that using mobile data only to browse and get books and references. Next is the student aren't allowed to go outside. Why? Because leaving your home will require a quarantine pass, and quarantine pass are only distributed to our parents that go outside, that buy our daily necessities, and so on and so forth. And leaving your home just to visit the library will cost your health and life due to COVID-19 pandemic. In the environment category, it tells that traveling fees are much costly, especially if you live quite far from the university. Not all students can afford such costly fees just to visit the library and get some references. And not all students have financial income to afford that much costly fees. In policies category, it indicates that ages 21 below are not allowed to go outside. Of course, to prevent the spreading of the COVID-19 virus, the government prohibits outside activities that prevent students from visiting the library. So next is problem number 2. Students have difficulties in searching for a specific book or reference in the internet. This is mostly happens to the students that are more familiar in the traditional way of getting books and references in the library. So in people category, it states that students doesn't know how to use the internet. Uh, They can identify the legit and fake resources due to unfamiliarities in using the internet. They are more familiar with traditional way, going to the library, getting the book and references, and unfamiliar on using the internet. In materials, the relevance of source of research materials, as I said earlier, other students doesn't know how to identify the relevant sources on the internet. They just pick on that they think it is good and go for that reference. In methods, it indicates only that there are so many sources in the internet that may lead to confusion to the student. So in machine, it indicates a slow model cellular phone that the students are using in searching reference or books. Especially if you open so many tabs all at once in your Android phone. It might be hard for the specifications of the cellular phone to compete, and it may be slow you down in finding the relevant sources. Next is problem 3. Students and teachers have troubles going to the library due to its far distance from their present location. So, because here in Cavite State University, not all departments are that near to the university library. So, in people category, it states that students can go outside. At first, they plan on going to the library, but then they realize that going to the library is much hassle and takes time to arrive. They just give up, ending that they're not interested in going to the library. Then the environment indicates the far distance from the university library on your current location or department. The bad weather can be a nuisance too, especially if you're just walking from the university library, from your department to the university library. And this pandemic too, that we can go outside. In manpower indicates that the students and teachers are busy enough to go to the library just to get some reference or books. It will be just be a nuisance from their time management.
System requirements. The application e-library main purpose is to provide books, articles, and journals that the students will find at their local libraries. Because of pandemic, the students have no access to the library due to lockdown and its government policies. The application's features are search bars, the books and journals are categorized and is sorted based on the relevance of the course and its subject. And finally, it has another category called recently viewed, where the ones that the students have read will be put in that category so that they can come back whenever it needed. Next, we will show the context diagram of the proposed system. It is very simple to access the library by putting your information or the credentials on the login page. Next is the data flow diagram of the proposed system. In order to register, the students need a verification code from the registrar which will be put into the student database. And after you register, you can proceed to the login page in order to access the library.
System specification. The researchers started to develop the system to support the student of Cavite State University to have access in university library. Since the student can access the university library due to this COVID-19 pandemic, the researcher developed and designed e-library software-based application using agile development cycle to achieve the design of e-library system. The e-library system is user-friendly and easy to use software and provide information about books, article, journal to help the student of Cavite State University to have a good source of related literatures and study. This e-library software-based application can access online using smartphone, laptop, PC, and other gadgets. This can be accessed anytime, anywhere. If you are a student of Cavite State University. In addition, the e-library has authentication server that will ensure that the only user of this e-library is the student of Cavite State University. Student needed to input the student number and CVSU library verification code to access the e-library. If the student forget the password, the student needed to request another code. Then the CVSU staff will send another code. E-library has a module. This module aims to support the student of CVSU can easily access the e-library and show how it works. However, if the user have the problem, the e-library module will provide the information to fix or to solve the problems.
Methodology. So here in this section, we will tackle about the software, the hardware, and the development apps that we use in developing the software system of e-library. In this section, we'll discuss too the development cycle that we use in developing this system software. So the materials used in system development. These are the hardware specifications of the computer. Core i3 4th gen central processing unit. We used to Windows 10 operating system. 8 GB RAM storage and 10 gig hard disk storage. So these are only the minimal specifications that we use. So if you have higher specifications than this, then it's good too. Next, the materials used in developing the software app. So we use Android Studio for the e-library user interface. ADB or Android Debug Bridge for the connection of the databases and the information systems. Adobe Animate 2019 for the enhancement of the UI. Adobe Photoshop for the editing of the features, and Visual C++. The materials in the target specifications for the device users are Android Lollipop version 5.0, 1 gig free RAM disk storage, and 1 gig free ROM storage. So these are only minimal specifications. So if you like in the development specifications on hardware PC, if you have higher specification than the listed here, it's all good too, and it will works perfectly on your Android phones.
This method section, we the researchers use the procedures and techniques of agile development cycle to achieve the proposed design of our project. It has the 5 following phases, which is the planning and requirements, analysis and design, implementation, testing, and evaluation, which will be discussed later in the video.
In the first phase of Agile development cycle, which is the planning and requirements, we researchers gathered information through online interview and survey for us to know or to identify the problems and issues of the students of Cavite State University, as well as the requirements needed for us to develop our application, which is the e-library. The second phase is the analysis and design, where we researchers analyze the gathered data from the survey and interview that the majority of the students have mobile phones and decent internet access that makes our project or application possible. It will benefit the student because it will be easier for them to access the library without going out during this pandemic.
The implementation phase is where we implement our system through coding. We want our application to be user-friendly so that the user can easily operate and understand our application, and so that they will not be confused on what is going on our application. The testing phase is where we will test the application for some bugs or malfunctions. It will decide whether the application is performing the given task by testing and performing the features with the help of students to make sure that it will work properly and there will be no failure. in the evaluation phase where we will finalize our application and implement it on the web. If bugs and reports have taken place, the researchers will respond immediately. Suggestions will be open for the further improvement of our application in the future.
Summary of the study. This study started due to help the student of Cavite State University to have access in university library. Because going outside the house are very difficult as we have to be careful not to get infected of coronavirus disease. That is why we are making a library system capable of providing book reference from the university library and for other research purposes. The e-library will work like system that the student access through an application using mobile data fidelity. The system e-library software-based application purpose is to have served the student of Cavite State University who doesn't have access to the buildings of the university. The e-library is an application that can be downloaded in app stores using mobile device. The user can view the book they just view can be found in the recently opened category. The e-library system is user-friendly and easy to use software and provide the information about books, journal, articles to help the student of Cavite State University to have a good source of related literature and studies. This can be accessed online using smartphone, laptop, PC, and other gadgets. In addition, this can be accessed anytime, anywhere if you are a student of Cavite State University. The e-library has an authentication server that will ensure that the only student of Cavite State University can use the e-library because students need to put student number and CBSU library verification code. If you forget the password, you need to request another password. Then the CBSU staff will give you another one. Then the e-library has a module that aims to support the student of CBSU to easily access the e-library and how it works.
The researcher discussed the necessary tools to use for the development and implementation of e-learning. This includes the hardware requirements needed, software specification, the needs for the documentation and implementation of the software. For the method, the researcher used the procedure and techniques of Agile development cycle. First, the researchers gathered information to know the problems, and this information will help to know the features that the researchers needed to develop the application, which is the e-library. After that, the researchers analyze the gathered data and discuss the benefits of the application for the student, and then implement the system into a code and make it user-friendly. Next will be the testing, where we researcher test the application for some bugs or malfunction to make sure that our application will work properly. Lastly, the researcher will finalize the application and will be open for the future improvement of the application.